Good morning. Welcome to our Bible study this morning. This morning we're continuing in the book of Revelation, our study in Revelation, by looking at the 6 seals of Revelation and compare them to Matthew 24. You'll find a good table that will help you with everything we cover this morning in a posting on my text blog. You can find my text blog at www.settledinheaven.wordpress.com. The posting is entitled The 7 Seals of Revelation Compared to Matthew 24. Okay, if you would get a copy of that text, it would help you a lot as we go down through this lesson comparing the seals of Revelation with the teaching of Christ on Matthew 24. Keep in mind, in our previous video we looked at Matthew 24 and we emphasized the fact Matthew 24, Mark 13, and Luke 21 all teach. They all are records of Christ's teaching in answer to his followers' question, what are the signs of thy coming and what are the signs of the end of the world? Matthew 24 covers, Mark 13 covers, and Luke 21 covers Christ's response to that question. In our lesson for today, we're just going to look at Matthew 24 and compare that with the seals that were opened in Revelation 6. But I do want to remind you, you could do the same thing with the teaching of Christ from Mark 13. You could do the same things with Christ's teachings that we find in Luke 21. You could compare any of those texts, or all 3 of them, to the 6 seals in Revelation, and you'll find that they all fit. My point is this. The very things we've been looking at in Revelation, the 6 seals, are the very same teachings of Christ we find in Matthew 24. Let's take a look at Revelation 6, the 6 seals that were opened, and then we're going to see where we can find the same teaching in Matthew 24. First of all, seal number 1 in Revelation. Remember, that was a seal concerning Antichrist and false teachers. We saw that in Revelation 6, 1 and 2. Listen to what's said from Revelation 6, 1 and 2. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard as it were the noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, Come and see. And I saw and behold a white horse. And him that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. If you remember, that seal, we said, was a picture of false teachers and Antichrist, those who would come in the name of Christ, but they were not Christ. Do you know that Matthew 24 tells a lot about false teaching and Antichrist coming? And in the context of Christ's teachings in Matthew 24, he's pointing to those false teachers and those antichrists and saying, these are signs that I'm coming back. In Matthew 24, 4 through 5 is just one example of that. And Jesus answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And you can see there's other references there from Matthew 24 on this table that clearly have Christ teaching about false Christs and false teachers. And his point in Matthew 24 was, when you see false teaching take place, when you see false Christs appearing, that's a sign I'm coming back. What was the point John was making as he sees the first seal open and as he sees the Antichrist and false teachers appearing on the scene? There were events that must take place before Christ comes back. The very same principles brought out both in Revelation 6 and Matthew 24. Let's look at seal number 2. If you remember in Revelation 6, seal number 2 was about wars and rumors of wars. Listen to what the Lord said in Revelation 6, 3 and 4. When he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, Come and see. And there went out another horse that was red. Power was given to him that sat thereupon to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. Revelation 6, 3 and 4. War and rumors of wars. Christ addressed that very thing in Matthew 24. Matthew 24, 6 and 7. Ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass. But the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. The very same sign John pointed to in the opening of the second seal, wars and rumors of wars. John was telling us by revealing that seal to us, he was telling us wars and rumors of wars are signs Christ is coming back. Then we find in Matthew 24, as Christ taught, answering the question, what are the signs of your coming and the signs of the end of the age? Christ responded by saying, ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. The very same teaching from both John and Christ. Look at the next one. Seal number 3. Seal number 3 is found in Revelation 6, 5, and 6. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard, and the third beast say, come and see. And behold, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts saying, a measure of wheat for a penny, 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and wine. That was seal number 3. Great famines and great shortages would take place, signaling that Christ was coming back. What did Christ say? In Matthew 24, 7, the middle part of verse 7. Nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Now listen to the next part. There shall be famines and pestilences. Especially the famines part. Great shortages taking place. Why? These were signs of his coming. That's why he was teaching us these things. Just as John taught the third seal, famines and shortages would be a sign of Christ's coming. Christ now tells us the same thing in Matthew 24. Look at seal number 4. Revelation 6, 7, and 8. And when he had opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth beast say, come and see. And I looked. Behold, a pale horse. And his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. Power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with the sword, with hunger, with death, and with the beasts of the earth. Horrible, horrific, violent deaths. Remember, that's what John was teaching us in seal number 4. When we see all these different, look at the list again. Kill with the sword, kill with hunger, kill with death, and kill with the beasts of the earth. Some horrible, in most cases, violent deaths, painful deaths that would take place. What did Christ say about that at the end of verse 7 into verse number 8? And pestilences, that means diseases. And earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. The first 4 seals in Revelation match perfectly with Christ's teachings in Matthew 24 through verse number 8. Christ calls the first 4 seals, which we commonly refer to as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. What does Christ call those same basic events? In verse number 8, all these are the beginning of sorrows, birth pains. So you have Christ giving us a little bit more insight into seals 1 through 4. What's the idea of a birth pain or sorrows? A lady that's going into labor before she actually gives birth. That's what birth pains are. That's what sorrows means. What happens when a lady goes into labor? The pain she experiences increases in 2 ways. It increases in frequency, and it increases in intensity. Christ says when you look at the first 4 seals of Revelation, in other words, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, they're going to be indications that Christ is coming back. And you know what really the biggest indication is? You're going to see those things increase in frequency and in intensity. The wars will become more and more frequent. They'll become more and more intense. The earthquakes, for example, will become more and more frequent, more and more intense. The famines and shortages will become more and more frequent, more and more intense. You can go down through the list. All four of those, the false teachers, the Antichrist. You can go down through all four of those. The basic idea is this. They're like birth pains. Christ said they'll be becoming more frequent and more intense as his coming draws nearer. So not only are those four different seals, marks, or indications he's coming, but the frequency that they appear, the intensity that they bring with them, will also be signs that the Lord's coming is very near. Okay, let's go on real quick. Seal number 5, found in Revelation 6, 9 through 11. When he had opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes were given unto every one of them. And it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that should be killed, as they were, should be fulfilled. What was seal number 5? Do you remember when John saw that opened? The martyrdom of Christians. Just like before, Christ addresses that in Matthew 24, 9 and 10. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and they shall kill you. Ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. There you can see again an indication that what John talked about in seal 5, Christ addresses in Matthew 24. Again, what's the context of both? Signs of the Lord's coming and of the end of the age. Folks, when we see martyrdom take place around us, when we see Christians being persecuted around us, keep in mind, Christ is coming back. And those things that we see taking place around us are simply the proof of that. Let's go on. Revelation 6, 12 through 17. This is seal number 6. This is darkness and great changes in the heavens. And I beheld when he had opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake. The sun became as black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. The stars of heaven fell onto the earth, even as the fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken of a mighty wind. Heaven departed as a scroll when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. The kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every free man hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Seal number 6 is what? Well, remember, first of all, as you read down through that, you can easily see the basic idea of seal 6 is great physical changes in the earth that reveal God's wrath is about to fall. There's another aspect to seal number 6 that's important to understand, though, too. If you remember, it's the idea of darkness falling upon the earth. You had part of the sun being taken, part of the moon, part of the stars, that type of idea, the heaven being rolled up. All that results in darkness on the earth. So a part of the symbolic nature of seal 6 involves the idea of the truth being taken away from the earth. The Lord gradually taking his truth out of the earth. The light of his truth not shining as brightly on the earth as his coming draws closer. So I think you have both aspects there. You have a literal, physical changes in the world immediately preceding Christ's coming, but you also have the gradual taking of truth away from the world as a punishment for their sin and their rejection of the truth that they had. What does Christ say about that in Matthew 24? Look at verse 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, the moon shall not give her light, the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. What do you have? Folks, again, you've got what? You've got the Lord himself teaching great physical changes, especially in the heavens, are going to take place. But again, in a figurative way, perhaps, he was also describing his truth being taken from the world as less and less light would enter into the world as his coming draws closer. In either case, the point is this. Whatever Revelation 6, the seal number 6 is talking about, and whatever Christ is talking about in Matthew 24:29, you can see the similarity. Whether it's the great physical changes only, or whether there's also a symbolic nature to both teachings, the point is, you've got physical nature being described as changing in great ways just prior to his coming. If you notice, if you look in Matthew 24, verse number 30, it does take place right before his coming. It says in 24:30, then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. Okay, so you can see just immediately before his coming is when these great changes in nature will be taking place. Folks, we're going to stop there. We could go on and continue in our study. We could see that Revelation 7 talks about the Lord protecting his people from his wrath. The Lord describes that protection in Matthew 24, verses 30 and 31. So we can even go a little bit farther with this, but we're not going to for this morning. But you'll see, folks, there's such an alignment, such a clear connection between Revelation 6 and Matthew 24, that it helps us understand that, yes, the first 6 seals of Revelation, like we've been teaching through this whole series, the first 6 seals of Revelation does teach the signs that must take place before Christ comes back. And Christ himself used the very same signs in Matthew 24. In the very same context, describing signs that must take place before he comes back. So it's very important, folks, that we keep Revelation chapter 6, the first 6 seals, in the context of Matthew 24, because it helps to emphasize, yes, these seals that John sees being broken one by one, yes, they are signs of Christ's coming. They're taking place all around us today, and they'll continue to take place around us. In many cases, they'll be like birth pains. You'll see their frequency increase. You'll see their intensity increase. All of which will lead up to the second coming of Christ and his sending his wrath against a wicked world. Renovating this world and preparing it to be an eternal dwelling place for his people in the new heavens and the new earth. We'll get into all that later in the Revelation series. May the Lord bless you as you continue to study his word. Thank you very much.